Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the last human transport ship leave Earth's orbit. Behind them, the blue planet grew smaller in the view screen. Ahead lay nothing but empty space and exile. "Sir, the Zenthari fleet is moving to intercept us," reported Captain Tony Blake from his station. His voice was calm, but Jake could hear the anger underneath. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 12 heavy cruisers and about 30 fighters. They're saying we violated the exile order by taking too long to leave." Jake's hands gripped the command chair. The aliens had given them only 6 months to evacuate every human colony in the galaxy. 6 months to abandon worlds that humans had called home for generations. It was impossible, but they had tried anyway. Dr. Lisa Parker walked up to Jake's chair. Her face was pale and tired. She had been working for weeks to gather evidence about what really happened at Colony 7. The aliens said humans had destroyed the peaceful settlement there. They said humans were monsters who killed innocent people. But Lisa knew the truth. "Admiral, I found more proof," she said quietly. "The blast patterns don't match human weapons. The radiation signature is wrong too. This was a Zenthari attack. Can you prove it? I have the data, but who will listen? The Coalition has already made up their minds about us." Jake nodded grimly. The Galactic Coalition was supposed to be fair and just. It was supposed to protect all member species equally, but the Zenthari Empire had too much power and influence. When they accused humans of genocide, the other aliens had believed them without question. Commander Amy Rogers approached from the communication station. "Sir, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The Zenthari are attacking human settlements even though people are trying to evacuate. They're not giving anyone time to escape." "How many casualties?" "Unknown, sir. Communications are being jammed." Jake felt rage building in his chest. The aliens had not just exiled humanity, they were hunting them down like animals. Families who had lived peacefully on distant worlds were now running for their lives. "Signal all ships," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed toward the nebula. We need to get our people out of Coalition space before more die." The human fleet moved deeper into space. Behind them, the Zenthari ships followed like wolves hunting prey. Jake watched the tactical display and counted ships. The humans had 40 vessels total. Most were civilian transports packed with refugees. Only 8 were military ships, and they were badly outnumbered. Tony Blake moved to stand beside Jake. "Sir, the Zenthari are demanding we stop for inspection. They say we might be carrying stolen Coalition technology." "Stolen technology?" Jake laughed bitterly. "We helped design half the systems they use. Humans invented quantum computing. We created the medical scanners that saved millions of alien lives. And now they call us thieves." Dr. Parker pulled up data on her tablet. "Admiral, I've been studying Zenthari psychology. They see humans as a threat because we advance too quickly. In 50 years, we went from first contact to becoming leaders in science and technology. Other species took centuries to reach our level. So they decided to eliminate the competition," Amy said. "Exactly. The attack on Colony 7 was planned to make humans look dangerous. They needed an excuse to remove us from the Coalition." Jake studied the star charts. The nebula ahead was dangerous. Ships could get lost in the gas clouds and radiation storms. But it was also the only way to escape Zenthari space without a fight. "Sir, the enemy fleet is closing fast," Tony reported. "They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. "Are all civilian ships clear?" "Yes, sir. The last transport just entered. The nebula." Jake made his decision. "All military vessels prepare for combat. We hold them here while our people escape. The 8 human warships turned to face the approaching Zenthari fleet. Jake knew it was hopeless. His ships were older models with basic weapons. The Zenthari had the newest coalition technology and overwhelming numbers. But humans had one advantage the aliens never understood. They never gave up. "Fire when ready," Jake ordered. The space battle was brief and violent. Human ships fought with desperate courage while Zenthari vessels tried to break through to pursue the refugees. Jake's flagship took heavy damage but kept firing until the last transport disappeared into the nebula's safety. "Admiral, we need to retreat," Tony said as explosions rocked the bridge. "Signal all ships. Fall back to the nebula. We've done what we came to do." The surviving human vessels limped into the gas clouds just as Jake's flagship lost main power. In the darkness of the bridge, emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. Dr. Parker helped Jake to his feet. Blood ran down his forehead from a head wound. "We made it, Admiral. Our people are safe." Jake looked at the tactical display. 5 human ships had been destroyed holding the line. Good people had died so others could live. He would remember their sacrifice. "Amy, send a message to all human settlements," he said. "Tell them we're going home to Earth. Tell them this isn't over." As the damaged fleet moved through the nebula toward home, Jake made a promise to himself and to humanity. The aliens thought they had won by exiling the humans. They thought removing humanity from the galaxy would solve their problems. They were wrong. Humans would return. And when they did, the galaxy would learn what happened when you made enemies of the most stubborn. Species in known space. 50 years had passed since the exile. Earth looked different now. Massive orbital shipyards circled the planet like metal rings. New cities stretched across continents that had once been empty. The blue world buzzed with activity as humanity prepared for something the galaxy had never seen before. General Ryan Cole stood in the command center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. His father had been a refugee from the outer colonies, one of the millions who fled to Earth during the exile. Ryan had grown up hearing stories about the injustice humanity had suffered. Now he was in charge of making sure it never happened again. "Show me the latest reports," Ryan said to his aide. The holographic display lit up with data from across the solar system. Asteroid mining operations fed raw materials to construction facilities. Mars had become a massive military training ground. The moons of Jupiter housed research laboratories where scientists worked on projects that would have seemed impossible 50 years ago. Dr. Nina Walsh entered the command center carrying a sealed case. She was the head of Earth's quantum research division and the smartest person Ryan had ever met. Her work would either save humanity or destroy it. "General, the tests were successful," she said with a tired smile. "The quantum disruptor works exactly as planned." Ryan felt excitement build in his chest. "Show me." Nina opened the case and pulled out a device the size of a coffee cup. It looked simple, almost ordinary. But this small machine could shut down any alien computer system or weapon in seconds. "During the exile, we studied every piece of coalition technology we could find," Nina explained. "All alien species use quantum processors for their advanced systems. This device creates a field that disrupts quantum states. Their computers simply stop working." "What about range?" "A single unit can affect an area the size of a city. A larger version could disable an entire planet's defense grid." Ryan picked up the device carefully. It was hard to believe something so small could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "How many can we build?" "We have factories on 6 different worlds now. We can produce thousands per month." The doors opened and Commander Steve Hunter walked in. He was Earth's best test pilot and had been flying the new ships that would carry humanity back to the stars. His flight suit was still damp with sweat from his latest mission. "Sir, the stealth tests went perfectly," Steve reported. "The Zenthari won't see us coming until it's too late." "Tell me about the new ships," Ryan said. Steve activated a wall display that showed sleek vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "We call them Shadow-class ships. They use quantum fold drives that are twice as fast as Coalition FTL. The hulls are made from materials that bend light around them. And the weapons?" "The weapons phase through shields," Nina added. "We learned that alien shielding works by stopping solid matter and energy. Our new plasma cannons exist in a quantum state until they hit the target. Then they become solid and release all their energy at once." Ryan studied the ship designs. They looked deadly and beautiful at the same time. Humanity had spent 50 years in exile, cut off from galactic trade and technology. But instead of making them weaker, the isolation had forced humans to innovate in ways no alien species had ever imagined. An alarm chimed softly and Agent Kelly Davis appeared on the main screen. She was broadcasting from somewhere deep in Coalition space where she had been working undercover for 10 years. Her face was hidden by shadows, but her voice was clear. "General, I have new intelligence," Kelly said. "The Zenthari are planning something big. They've been building a massive fleet in the Outer Rim. Sources say they want to eliminate all species they consider threats." "How many ships?" "Over 1,000 warships. They're calling it the Final Solution Fleet." Ryan felt cold. Anger spread through his body. The Zenthari were not content with exiling humanity. They wanted to commit genocide against any species that might challenge their power. "What about the other coalition races?" he asked. "Many are getting nervous about Zenthari expansion. The Vex Confederation is starting to question their alliance. Some of the smaller species are forming secret resistance groups. If humanity returned now, we might find allies." Ryan nodded. This was the news he had been waiting for. The galaxy was finally starting to see the Zenthari for what they really were. "Kelly, how much longer do we have?" 6 months, maybe less. After that, the Zenthari will be too strong to stop." The transmission ended, and Ryan turned to his team. Nina clutched her quantum disruptor while Steve reviewed ship production numbers. All around the command center, officers and scientists worked at their stations preparing for the greatest military operation in human history. "Nina, I want every disruptor device ready for deployment in 4 months, Ryan ordered. "Yes, sir." "Steve, how many ships will we have?" "The shipyards are working around the clock. We'll have 300 Shadow-class vessels and about 1,000 support ships. It's not as many as the Zenthari, but our technology is 50 years ahead of theirs." Ryan walked to the window that looked out over the mountains. Somewhere up there, in the orbital shipyards, workers were building the fleet that would carry humanity back to the stars. But this time, they would not return as refugees or exiles. They would return as liberators. "Send word to all Earth defense force units," Ryan said. "Operation Homecoming begins in 5 months. We're going back to show the galaxy what happens when you exile the wrong species." As night fell over Earth, the planet's cities glowed with the light of a civilization preparing for war. In the orbital shipyards, sparks flew as workers completed the most advanced warships ever built. In hidden laboratories, scientists put finishing touches on weapons that could bring down entire fleets. The Zenthari had thought exile would destroy humanity. Instead, it had forged them into something stronger and more dangerous than any species in galactic history. Soon the aliens would learn that humans were not victims to be pushed around. They were predators, and they were coming home. Captain Luke Carter watched the Zenthari patrol ship pass within 1,000 meters of his position. The aliens had no idea that a human vessel was floating right next to them, invisible and silent. The stealth technology was working perfectly. Earth's Shadow was the first human ship to return to Coalition space in 50 years. Luke's mission was simple: scout enemy positions and make contact with potential allies. What he found was worse than anyone had expected. "Sir, I'm picking up another distress signal," reported Lieutenant Emma Brooks from her communication station. "It's coming from the planet below." Luke studied the tactical display. The world had once been home to a peaceful species called the Corvani. They were farmers and artists who had never hurt anyone. Now their planet was burning. "Can you break through the jamming?" "Yes, sir. The Zenthari don't know about our new communication systems." A voice filled the bridge, speaking in broken Coalition standard. "Please, anyone who can hear this. The Zenthari are killing everyone. They say we use too many resources. They say the galaxy doesn't need weak species anymore." Luke felt sick. This was happening across Coalition space. The Zenthari were not just exiling threats anymore. They were committing genocide against anyone they considered useless. "Emma, record everything. Command needs to see this." "Already. On it, sir." The ship's sensors showed Zenthari troops moving through Corvani cities with heavy weapons. They were not trying to occupy the planet. They were trying to empty it. Luke had seen enough. "Take us to the next system," he ordered. "We need more intelligence." For 3 weeks, Earth's Shadow moved through Coalition space like a ghost. They documented atrocities on a dozen worlds. They watched Zenthari fleets destroy colonies that had existed for centuries. Everywhere they went, the story was the same. The aliens were building their perfect galaxy by eliminating everyone else. But they also found something else: resistance. In the Tau Ceti system, Luke's ship detected encrypted transmissions between rebel groups. In the Vega sector, they watched as alien freedom fighters attacked Zenthari supply convoys. The galaxy was starting to fight back. "Sir, I'm getting a direct communication request," Emma said. "It's on an old Earth frequency. Someone knows we're here." Luke hesitated. Making contact would risk exposing their position. But they needed allies if this mission was going to work. "Put it through." The view screen activated and showed a female alien with blue skin and silver markings on her face. She was young, but her eyes looked ancient and tired. "Human vessel, I am Zara Vex of the Free Coalition movement. We know who you are and why you're here." "How do you know about us?" "Because we've been waiting 50 years for humanity to return. My species helped vote for your exile. It was the biggest mistake in galactic history." Luke studied her carefully. The Vex Confederation had been one of humanity's biggest enemies during the exile. But this woman seemed different. "Why should we trust you?" "Because the Zenthari are planning to eliminate my people next month. Because they've already destroyed 6 civilizations this year. Because you're the only species with the technology and courage to stop them." Emma looked at Luke with raised eyebrows. This was not part of their mission plan. But sometimes the best intelligence came from unexpected sources. "What do you want from us?" Luke asked. "Weapons, training, hope. My people are farmers and merchants, not warriors. But we're willing to learn if it means stopping the Zenthari genocide." Luke made a decision that would change everything. "Send us your location. We'll talk." 2 days later, Earth's Shadow rendezvoused with a small fleet of Vex ships in an asteroid field. Luke met Zara face to face in her command ship. She was smaller than he expected, but radiated determination. How many species are part of your resistance? Luke asked. 12 so far, with more joining every day. The Zenthari made a mistake when they started killing civilians. It woke up the galaxy. Zara showed Luke intelligence reports from across Coalition space. The information was incredible. Zenthari fleet positions, supply lines, communication codes, and detailed plans for their final solution operation. This is enough to plan a full military campaign, Luke said with amazement. That's what we're hoping for. When will Earth send its fleet? Luke smiled for the first time in weeks. Sooner than you think. While Luke was meeting with rebels, Commander Rick Stone was conducting very different operations. His Marine unit had been attacking isolated Zenthari outposts for weeks, leaving no survivors but plenty of fear. Rick's ship, Silent Death, materialized next to a Zenthari communication station. The aliens had no warning before human soldiers teleported directly onto their station. The attack was over in minutes. Sir, we've downloaded their entire database, reported Sergeant Bill Hayes. This station was coordinating attacks on civilian targets. Good. Plant the charges and let's go. The explosion destroyed the communication station completely. But before they died, the Zenthari operators had sent out emergency signals describing impossible attacks by invisible ships and teleporting soldiers. Across Coalition space, Zenthari commanders were starting to panic. Their outposts were being destroyed by enemies they couldn't see or fight. Reports spoke of humans using technology that seemed magical. Rick's team hit 12 more targets before returning to Earth. Each attack was perfectly planned and flawlessly executed. The Zenthari were learning that even 50 years of exile had not made humans weak. Back on Earth's shadow, Luke was preparing to return home with the most important intelligence in human history. The galaxy was ready for liberation. Alien species were begging for human help. The Zenthari were vulnerable and overextended. Emma, send a message to Earth Defense Command, Luke ordered. Tell them the galaxy is waiting for us to come home. What should I say about our new allies? Tell them we found friends who remember what the galaxy used to be like before the Zenthari took over. Tell them it's time for humans to keep their promise. As Earth's shadow began its journey home, Luke looked back at Coalition space. Somewhere out there, Zara Vex and her resistance fighters were preparing for the battle of their lives. Other species were gathering weapons and courage for the fight ahead. The Zenthari thought they had won when they exiled humanity. They thought removing humans from the galaxy would give them complete control. But they had made a critical mistake. They had given humanity 50 years to get angry, and now the shadows were returning to reclaim the light. Fleet Admiral Ben Parker stood on the bridge of the Earth's Vengeance and watched as 300 human warships prepared to change galactic history. Around him, officers worked at stations filled with technology the Coalition had never seen. Today, humanity would announce its return with fire and fury. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his aide. "Signal the fleet. Operation Homecoming begins now." Across 12 star systems, human vessels materialized from quantum fold space. They appeared without warning, bypassing every sensor and defense grid the Zenthari had built. The aliens had been watching for ships coming through normal hyperspace. They never expected humanity to arrive from a different dimension entirely. Captain Rose Mitchell led her fighter squadron through the atmosphere of Zenthari Prime. Her ships moved like ghosts through the planet's defense network. The quantum phase technology made them invisible to sensors and untouchable by weapons. "Rose Squad, we have multiple targets," she announced. "Remember, we're here to disable their command centers, not destroy the planet." Her fighters dove toward massive, Xanthari military complexes. The aliens scrambled to respond, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the phasing human ships. When Rose's squadron released their payloads, the quantum disruptor bombs materialized just long enough to devastate every computer system in the area. "Direct hits on all targets," reported Lieutenant Kevin Walsh. "Their entire planetary command network is down." "Excellent. Form up and move to the next target." On the ground, Major Dan Foster watched his Marines teleport directly into Xanthari military headquarters. The building's shields and armor meant nothing against human technology that could phase soldiers through solid matter. "Secure the command center," Dan ordered. "Non-lethal force only. We want prisoners for questioning." The Xanthari officers inside the building were trapped. Their weapons couldn't hurt enemies who could become solid or ghost-like at will. Their communication systems had been destroyed by quantum disruptors. Within minutes, the most secure military facility on Xanthari Prime was under human control. "Sir, we've captured General Kithak," reported Corporal Sue Miller. "He was trying to activate some kind of doomsday weapon." Dan studied the alien general. Kithak was a veteran of many wars and had personally ordered the destruction of 6 peaceful species. Now he was staring at humans with pure terror in his eyes. "Tell him his war is over," Dan said. Meanwhile, Admiral Parker was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. His fleet had appeared in 12 systems simultaneously, striking at every major Xanthari stronghold. The aliens were completely overwhelmed. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 4 Xanthari fleets," reported Commander Jane Roberts. "They say they can't fight enemies they can't see or hurt. Accept their surrenders, but keep them under guard." "What's the status on Colony 7? "Major Foster's team has secured the planet. They found exactly what Dr. Parker predicted 50 years ago." Parker felt grim satisfaction. Colony 7 was where humanity had supposedly committed genocide against peaceful aliens. It was the excuse the Xanthari had used to exile every human from the galaxy. Now the truth would finally come out. On Colony 7, human investigators were uncovering mass graves filled with alien bones. The remains showed clear signs of Xanthari weapons, not human ones. There were children's skeletons mixed with adults. The Xanthari had killed entire families and blamed humanity for the crime. Alex Chen stood in the excavation site with cameras recording everything. He had been Earth's last diplomat before the exile, and now he was broadcasting proof of Xanthari, guilt to every world in the galaxy. "Citizens of the Coalition," Alex said as he gestured to the graves behind him. "For 50 years you believed that humans were monsters who killed innocent people. But the evidence shows that the Xanthari murdered these colonists themselves. They framed humanity to justify our exile. The broadcast reached billions of aliens across hundreds of worlds. For decades, they had been told that humans were dangerous and violent. Now they were seeing proof that their own leaders had lied to them." On Earth, General Ryan Cole watched the operation unfold from his command center. Every human ship was equipped with quantum communicators that allowed instant coordination across vast distances. The technology gave humanity an overwhelming advantage in large-scale battles. "Sir, Xanthari High Command is requesting a ceasefire," reported his communications officer. "Tell them we'll consider it after they surrender unconditionally and agree to stand trial for war crimes." "They're saying they want to negotiate." Ryan's voice turned cold. "They had 50 years to negotiate. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender or we'll start targeting their civilian infrastructure." The Xanthari leaders were desperate. Their fleets were being destroyed by invisible ships. Their planets were being captured by soldiers who could walk through walls. Their communication networks were being shut down by weapons that turned their own technology against them. Most importantly, their lies were being exposed. Across the galaxy, alien species were learning the truth about the Zenthari genocide program. Rebellions were erupting on every world they controlled. Captain Rose Mitchell was leading her fighters in an attack on the Zenthari Military Academy when she received new orders. Rose Squad, we have a priority target. There's a Zenthari fleet moving toward Earth's old colony on Titan 7. They're trying to destroy evidence of more war crimes. How many ships? 50 heavy cruisers with fighter escorts. They think they can overwhelm you with numbers. Rose smiled inside her helmet. The Zenthari still didn't understand what they were fighting. Rose Squad, engage quantum phase mode. Let's show them what real fighter pilots can do. The battle above Titan 7 was over before it began. Rose's squadron appeared inside the Zenthari formation and opened fire with weapons that ignored shields and armor. The alien ships exploded one after another while their return fire passed harmlessly through the human fighters. All enemy vessels destroyed, Rose reported. 0 human casualties. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human forces were liberating world after world with minimal losses. The technological advantage was so complete that most battles ended in minutes. But the real victory was not military. It was moral. On hundreds of worlds, alien civilians were cheering as human ships appeared in their skies. They were finally free from Zenthari oppression. They were finally learning the truth about who the real monsters were. Admiral Parker received the surrender of the last Zenthari fleet commander as the sun set on a new era. Humanity had returned to the galaxy not as exiles or refugees, but as liberators and heroes. Admiral, the Coalition Council is requesting immediate peace talks, his aide reported. Tell them we'll talk, but first, every Zenthari leader involved in the genocide program stands trial, and Earth gets a permanent seat on the Council with veto power over all major decisions. As human ships took control of strategic positions throughout the galaxy, Parker allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The exile was over. The lies had been exposed. Justice would finally be served, and humanity would never again be forced to leave their rightful place among the stars. President Kate Sullivan walked through the halls of the Coalition Council building for the first time in 50 years. Her footsteps echoed off marble floors that had once been forbidden to any human. Now she was here to reshape the galaxy. Behind her walked a small group of Earth's finest leaders. Admiral Morrison, now 80 years old but still sharp, carried himself with the dignity of someone who had seen justice finally served. Dr. Lisa Parker, her hair white with age, clutched a datapad containing evidence that would send war criminals to prison for life. "Madam President, the Council is ready to see you," said an alien aide. Kate nodded and entered the great chamber where representatives from hundreds of worlds waited. The room fell silent as she approached the speaker's platform. These aliens had voted to exile humanity based on lies. Now they would learn what that decision had cost them. "Members of the Coalition," Kate began. 50 years ago you cast humanity out of this assembly. You believed we were monsters who committed genocide against innocent people. Today I stand before you with proof that everything you were told was a lie. She activated the holographic display and images filled the chamber. Mass graves on Colony 7, Zenthari weapons signatures, communication intercepts proving the conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The Zenthari Empire framed humanity to eliminate us as competition, Kate continued. They murdered peaceful colonists and blamed us for the crime. You exiled us without trial or investigation. You condemned an entire species based on fabricated evidence. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many of the alien representatives looked shocked and ashamed. Others appeared angry at being deceived for so long. But humanity did not come here for revenge, Kate said. We came here for justice. And we came here to build a better galaxy for all of us. In a smaller chamber nearby, war crimes trials were beginning. Former Zenthari leaders sat in defendant chairs while human prosecutors presented evidence of their crimes. General Kithak, architect of multiple genocides, stared at the floor as videos showed the destruction he had ordered. Dr. Lisa Parker took the witness stand and began reading from her research notes. Her voice was steady and professional as she described decades of Zenthari atrocities. The defendants' forces used biological weapons on Corvani Prime, she testified. They poisoned the water supply and watched as 2 billion people died slowly. When other species asked questions, they blamed the deaths on a natural plague. The alien judges listened in horror. Many had believed the Zenthari were harsh but necessary leaders. Now they were learning about systematic murder on an unimaginable scale. Doctor, how many species did the Zenthari eliminate? Asked the chief. Prosecutor, 17 that we can prove. Possibly more. They kept careful records because they were proud of their work. Across the chamber, Admiral Morrison watched the proceedings with grim satisfaction. He remembered the day his ships had limped back to Earth, carrying refugees and broken dreams. He remembered burying good people who died protecting, evacuating civilians. Finally, their sacrifice meant something. Captain Tony Blake, now a fleet commander, was coordinating the peacekeeping operations across former Zenthari territory. His ships patrolled star systems where alien species were rebuilding their shattered worlds. Sir, we're getting reports of celebration riots on 12 different planets, his aide reported. The locals are so happy to be free that they're having trouble maintaining order. Tony smiled. Send medical supplies and food to anyone who needs them. And make sure our people understand they're not conquerors. We're here to help. On the planet Vex Prime, Zara Vex stood with her people as human ships took positions around their world. But these were not invasion forces. They were protectors. Citizens of Vex, announced a human voice over planetary communication systems. You are now under the protection of the Earth Defense Force. The Zenthari can no longer threaten you. You are free. Zara felt tears run down her face. Her species had spent generations living in fear of Zenthari reprisals. Her children had grown up knowing they might be eliminated at any moment. Now they could finally build the future they wanted. Back in the council chamber, President Sullivan was outlining humanity's terms for rejoining the coalition. Earth demands a permanent seat on the Security Council with full veto power, she announced. We also require that all major military operations be approved by human representatives. The galaxy will never again be dominated by a single aggressive species. And if we refuse? Asked a delegate from the Rigel Confederation. Kate's voice turned ice cold. Then you can try to maintain peace and order without our help. But remember, we are the only species with the technology to stop the next would-be conqueror. Choose wisely. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was not just readmitted to the coalition. They were given authority to prevent future genocides and protect weaker species. Dr. Nina Walsh was establishing research centers on liberated worlds where human and alien scientists could work together. The quantum technology that had won the war was now being adapted for peaceful purposes. We can use quantum processors to solve hunger, disease, and energy shortages, she explained to a group of alien researchers. The same technology that disabled Xanthari computers can revolutionize how we approach galactic problems. Commander Steve Hunter was training alien pilots to use advanced spacecraft for exploration and rescue operations. Species that had been oppressed for generations were learning to reach for the stars again. Remember, speed isn't everything, he told a class of young aliens. These ships are powerful, but they're meant to save lives, not take them. As the months passed, the galaxy began to heal. War crime trials sent Xanthari leaders to prison, while their victims received justice. Liberated species rebuilt their civilizations with human assistance. New laws prevented any single group from accumulating too much power. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth and watched the constant traffic of ships from dozens of worlds. Alien diplomats, traders, and tourists moved freely through human space. The isolation was finally over. President Sullivan joined him at the window. "Do you think we did the right thing, Admiral?" "We did what we had to do. The galaxy was dying under Xanthari rule. Sometimes you need to fight to preserve peace. And now," Morrison smiled as he watched an alien child press her face against a viewport, staring in wonder at the blue planet below. "Now we build something better. We make sure no species ever has to face what we did." Captain Luke Carter's ship, Earth's Shadow, was exploring the far reaches of the galaxy where new civilizations waited to be discovered. His mission was no longer military reconnaissance. He was an ambassador bringing hope to worlds that had never known freedom. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. There were species yet to be contacted, worlds yet to be explored, and challenges yet to be overcome. But now humanity would face them as leaders and protectors, not as exiles running from false accusations. Earth had returned to the stars with fire and fury, but more importantly, they had returned with justice and hope. The age of Xanthari oppression was over. The age of human guardianship had begun, and in the depths of space, new ships carried Earth's flag to distant worlds where people dreamed of freedom. The galaxy was finally learning what humanity had always known. Some things were worth fighting for, and some species were too stubborn to stay defeated. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity would make sure they stayed that way.